Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host Dwayne Douglas, along with myself. This week we're doing a little guest appearance here with Sniper Raider here. Ryan Holmes is off this week. Just want to get some different thoughts about where the Raiders are, what's going on with the Raiders, and I just want to get this guy on because he is doing a great job with Twitter Spaces. If you're not familiar with Twitter Spaces, on Twitter, they have an area where you get Twitter Spaces where people can come in, chime in, give their thoughts about what's going on, how they feel about the team, and how they feel about certain other things. Sniper, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, boss, man. I really appreciate you having me on, man. It's an exciting time to be a Raider, and it hasn't been able to been said in a long time, right? So I can't wait for the season to start, brother.
Yeah, and it's always an exciting time to be a Raider, but it's also for this point they have a team, and we have a team that actually talk about in a positive sense. We'll see where that goes.
Right.
What made you go ahead and start all these Twitter Spaces where Raider fans can kind of, even if they disagree, it's cool because you kind of do a good job of keeping it respectful.
Right. You know what? It just went back to the basics, right? What do we usually do? And I'm sure you can relate too. What do you do when you hang out with the boys? You talk that shit. You talk football. And you drink and you just have something cordial, right? So The mentality was, we do that regardless on our free time. So why not do something that we enjoy and put it out there and just bring the community together, build a culture. And there's nothing like the Raider Nation. You know what I mean? So I love it, man. I feel like it's community, and not to sound biased, and people can agree or disagree, but there's no nation like Raider Nation. Period.
Okay. Yeah.
So I went to Allegiant last year, and I went to SoFi, and Raider Nation rolls deep, brother. So as soon as you step in there, it's Raider chants all day, and it feels like family. Some people might sound weird, but Raider Nation knows what's up, and I'm a very proud Raider fan, man.
Yeah, no question.
Since I was 7 years old.
Yeah, no question about it. So there's a lot of, and I can tell that the Raider Nation is so into everything, because as soon as one thing happens, then somebody reports something, they go nuts and all this stuff like that. So they had the first preseason game against the Jaguars. Josh Jacobs had carries in it, and then people like Big Tafer and all this stuff like that. Not to bag on the Raider, how can I put it? The reporters, but they it's not. If you listen to their podcast, they don't seem like they're enjoying their job at all.
Right.
So to put out there that it speaks volumes about what Josh Jacobs did, and I just tweeted out quickly like, hey, like there's a football game on Thursday. Josh Jacobs played in it, and that's it. That's the tweet.
Right.
They're not looking to trade him. Doesn't look like anything like that. You never know. Somebody might pull. Somebody gives you a 2-1s for him. Of course, you're gonna trade him, but why this is an area of strength for the Raiders. What are your thoughts about Josh Jacobs here?
All right, well, let's just set the record straight, okay? This whole situation of potentially Josh Jacobs getting traded, it's 100% clickbait. There is no, from a logical standpoint, there is no reason for Josh Jacobs to get traded. I understand the people's rebuttal to that is we brought a lot of running backs in, but that's the Josh McDaniels system, running back committee. And you saw with the Patriots last year, how many running backs did they have? So it was impossible from a fantasy league standpoint to even solve who from the Patriots is going to score. You know what I mean? It was just who has a hot hand or what the scheme is at that moment or whatever we got to work with. And they ran with it. There is no reason for Josh Jacobs to leave the Raiders. Number one, our Super Bowl window is open. Number two, when healthy, and I say that very boldly, when healthy, he's a top 10 running back in the NFL. If you know your football, he's a top 10 running back in the NFL. Right? He doesn't have the explosive speed, and sometimes he tends to run outside of the line. Towards the outside of the tackles. But you could blame that on potentially what the offensive line looked like last year. He was running for his life at some point, but he did come through in the second half of the season. But I digress. We're in a Super Bowl window. He's our best running back. Who from our running back group are you going to say is better than Josh Jacobs? Nobody. He's on a rookie contract. So why would we take him away unless the only way I see him leaving is if somebody gives us something ridiculous. And I don't see anybody giving anything better than a 3rd-round pick for a running back. Because you got to look at it from this. If you got to look at it from this standpoint, Josh Jacobs is not known to have explosive speed. That's my knock on him. Besides him not being able to stay healthy, he doesn't have explosive speed. So let's say he hits the 2nd level, he's not going to run. He's not going to run for 60 yards and to the house, right? He's going to get caught. How many times have we seen him get caught? So with that being said, if you look at it now, he's in his 4th year, going into his 5th year. He's only going to get slower. You know what I mean? The life expectancy of a running back, realistically, if you're lucky, is what, 3 to 4 years?
Yeah.
Like a solid career. And the running back position is very expendable at that, right? So if anything, you'll see him diminish as he progresses. Why would we, not get the best out of him now? I understand next year, whatever happens is going to happen. I'm of the mindset that Zamir White's going to be the lead back for us moving forward into not this season, but next season.
Yeah.
But right now, all the chips on the table, the way I see it, we're not building anything. We are here to destroy, and we're going for a Super Bowl this year. We're not looking to see, well, we brought in pieces to succeed, and we brought in pieces to see how far we can get in this division. No, we are here to win a Super Bowl, and that window is open now. So it makes no sense to let go of Josh Jacobs for any reason. I think that's just silly. And like you mentioned, and you mentioned Vic Tafer, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. People like Vic Tafer, and I'm not singling out Vic Tafer, but they're doing what everybody else is doing. They're nervous because of people like us are actually putting in content that's valuable.
Yep.
And a lot of people are understanding now that their content can be very clickbaitish, right? It's the off season. How much is there really to talk about? You know what I'm saying? You're out there in the sun, you're trying to go with binoculars to peek in, like what's really happening. But do you really know what's going on? How much can you really say in depth is going on with the in training camp right now? You can't really say much. It's basically, okay, we have practices and then we're going on to the games, and that's all you can really go based off of. So now you have to, if you're not getting clicks, your job is probably on the line. You know what I'm saying? You're losing those followers to somebody else potentially. So I see where they're coming from, but as you get older and your knowledge of football becomes more enhanced, you understand what clickbait is and what is really like, we have something here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, Josh Jacobs isn't going anywhere, brother.
Yeah, I mean, it makes no sense, and I mean, he's not making a lot of money. It's you're using running backs by committee anyway, so that was silly. As far as that goes, as far as the O line goes, I mean, everybody going back and forth about Brandon Parker. To me, to me, it's just like, I mean, it is a area of concern. I think at the end of the day, it's going to end up being, I think he's basically the swing tackle anyway. You're not going to put. I don't think you're going to see Colton Miller play at all in the preseason. We thought about the offensive line. And I think listen, Brandon Parker is on that last drive. I mean, I just watched that game back. On that last drive against the and that overtime drive, especially against the Chargers last year.
Right.
They put Bosa over him. He was able to, Carr was able to complete those passes down the field to get him in field goal range. Like, so like, I mean, I'm not saying he's great. He's a swing tackle. He's a backup, and I think Leatherwood gets a shot at right tackle first until we hear anything else.
I agree, definitely. My issue with Brandon Parker, and let me just say this: those people who are happy that Brandon Parker got injured, I mean, something's wrong with you guys. At the end of the day, this is a family man, and it's bigger than football, right? It's actually this going to affect your life. You know what I'm saying, and your well-being. So, shame on those people who laugh at people who get injured. But anyways, the situation with the right tackle position, a lot of people are going throwing out names like Dwayne Brown, Darrell Williams, who played with Buffalo as of recent, and the way people see it is in a competitive manner is the Jets. Mekhi Becton just went down for the year, right? So the way some people see it is we're on a race to pick up a right tackle in free agency. But here's where I want people and Raider Nation to kind of open up their minds, right? If these players on the free agent market are so good, then how come nobody's picked them up? How come they're still there, right? Yeah. It could be many things. One, they're obviously washed, or two, they're asking for too much money because they know it's their last contract, or three, they want to absolutely play for a team only if they're going to be the starter, right?
Yeah.
So with that being said, we kind of have to digress a little bit. Exactly. Yeah. So we have to kind of like pump the brakes a little bit. And my thing is, we do need to bring in a tackle for depth, right? The way I see it, Illuminor is a swing guard and tackle. He could play both. and he comes from the Carmen Brasillo system, so he knows how to adjust to Carmen Brasillo's scheme, right? There's a reason why we kept him. So let's pump the brakes a little bit, right? Brandon Parker went down. You know, that sucks. We move on. Depth absolutely matters. Starting week 1, in my personal opinion, you have to start Alex Leatherwood. You have to start Alex Leatherwood.
Yeah, you do.
You cannot frown upon a player who's going into his second year. So much went down his rookie year, and everybody wanted to kill him, right? Same way with Cole Miller. Obviously, different dynamics played a role, but you can't dog a lineman who's going into his second year and so much that happened his rookie year, right? Look at who he played against on the edge his rookie year. In the first drive, Denzel Good went down. So now you're bringing in a backup to help you build chemistry on the fly, right? With these pro bowlers that you're playing up against. It's a tall task, especially when you're going into a league that you have grown men, right? In college, what's the percentage of chance that you're going to play with someone who's Pro Bowl level? Now you're coming to the NFL. These are grown men. The speed is faster. You got to adjust quicker, and you're going to get slapped in the face right away. You know what I'm saying? So let's pump the brakes on getting Darrell Williams or getting Dwayne Brown. There's a reason why they're still out there. And Raider Nation, I ask of you guys to let's support Alex Leatherwood. Okay, hard worker.
Yeah.
And we have to wait and see what he develops into. And if anybody can bring the best out of Alex Leatherwood in this offensive line, it's Carmen Brasillo.
Yeah, and I would say too, there's every football team has an area where they have to develop, and that's what they're going to do in this situation. They're going to develop this offensive line, and they didn't panic and they didn't go out there. It says a lot that they didn't go out there and go grab somebody.
Right.
And also with you look at New England, like did New England go out there and always grab the top tackle here, top tackle there? I mean, Nate Soldier was there forever, and when he left there, went to New York, look what happened. He didn't do anything.
Right.
So we'll see what happens there. The proof will be in the pudding there. I don't think you have an offensive head coach who's not going to blow up his whole offensive system because they can't find a right tackle. There's options there, and I think Parker, you got Leatherwood, and you also got Illuminor. I think so as far as that goes, I think you were probably one of those guys who believed that the Raiders could get Devontae Adams. So I was one of the guys. I was like, well, I didn't really read too much into it. I was like, oh, you know what? I mean, he's not leaving Green Bay. He's not leaving Aaron Rodgers, all stuff like that. Now we got Aaron Rodgers taking like acid or psychedelics to stay on the field.
I would too if I lost Devontae Adams.
Yeah, exactly. So interesting there, but that dynamic, I think people go back and forth with Derek in this whole situation. I think part of the Raiders' struggles have been part Derek. I think part of it has been also the whole situation with just the Raiders have been dysfunctional, and even
to say the least.
To say the least. I mean, with whether it's financial stuff, whether it's Gruden and Del Rio and all that other stuff like that. So let's see what happens there. What are your thoughts about this offense? Expectations for them, and I would imagine that this will look pretty interesting once you get all those guys on the field at the same time in that first game. That first game against the Chargers.
Right. Well, let's start from the inside out. Right. We talked about the O-line just now. So a lot of people press the panic button on the offensive line. Me personally, I'm of the mentality that we could want to know so much about our team and we think we know it all and everything, but at the end of the day, we're not in that locker room, right? We're not within that coaching staff. They know best. They get paid for this, right? So if they were pressing the panic button on the offensive line and depth, they would have gone out and gotten somebody before somebody else snatched them up, right? So that's number one. Carmen Brasillo and Tom Cable, I mean, that is definitely an upgrade, I'm telling you right now, I'm 31 years old. I have never been so excited for a Raiders season in my life because, and I've gone as far as saying that whoever wins this division goes to the Super Bowl. Okay. So there is absolutely no reason, with that being said, for this team not to be a top 3 offense in the NFL. Period. At worst, let's say right tackle doesn't work out. Josh McDaniels and Carmen Brasillo are able to scheme up to work to disguise those flaws within the line, right? Aside from that, how long do you expect a defender to guard a Darren Waller, a Devontae Adams, a Hunter Renfrow, a Kenyon Drake out of the backfield, right? Pick your poison, as everybody says, right? Derek Carr, like I've always mentioned, is the most underappreciated quarterback of the past decade.
Mhm.
If anybody wants to argue with me about that, get at me on the DMs. Who has been through the most compared to Derek Carr? The lack of consistency throughout the years, historically bad defenses. The best he's ever had was Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree, but that's 1A, 1B. There's not no solid wide receiver one. You know what I mean? How many players has he gotten paid? Gone off and gotten paid. Just a recent Nelson Aguilar got the bag thanks to Derek Carr. He wet the bed in New England. I could have told you that. Derek Carr brings players the bag, bro. And people don't understand that. And a lot of people love to hate Derek Carr. Why? Because he's a punchback, because he's a nice guy, right? Derek Carr is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Derek Carr has gone over, well, I believe 4,500 yards the past 3 or 4 years. And there's only 4 quarterbacks who have done that, right? Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. I'm throwing Tom Brady in there, and Derek Carr. And Derek Carr has had the least talent consistently. Derek Carr led this team to a playoff run last year with this fucking offense. What does that say about this? What does that say about the grit of this man? Not once has he ever dogged his team. He's been in that podium. He's been a consistent leader, right? Darren Waller was out for games this past year. You know what I mean? You had Hunter Renfrow playing the X at some point out there. You know what I mean? Henry Ruggs went down. You lost our head coach. You have a special teams coach being your interim coach. I mean, this has to be a 30 for 30 one day. I'm sure you agree with that.
Yeah. So I would say this too, is like, I think the one thing with the media and the people who are not Derek Carr guys, they would say all year last year, no excuses, no excuses, no excuses.
Uh-huh.
So when they actually made the playoffs, and yes, I mean, the media is going to be right because to a certain degree, because unless you win a Super Bowl and only one team can win a Super Bowl, you're not gonna they're gonna be right. But you can't say make the playoffs, no excuses, no excuses, no excuses, and they go out there and they beat Cleveland. They beat, and then like I thought it was kind of funny that when Derek did say we don't care how it looks, right, as long as we win. So
right.
and they won those games. So now, they have a head coach, they have an organization here where they could have punted this season and said, hey, well, let's just start over. Look what the division did. They know.
Right.
They said no, we're going to go after it. And and I think it's been amazing. Hold on 1 second, real quick. I just want to double check something real quick. Yep.
No problem.
I think it was just been crazy that for this team, like he has been kind of been that stable guy, and people will always make excuses for quarterbacks they like. Like, so I'm in spaces trying to tell people that, I mean, or somebody trying to tell me that like we got, that the Chargers should have won that game. Well, then I made a point. So you watch football, right? And I was like, okay, so you tell me that a team that was down 29-14 with seven minutes left should have won that game. Like, the Raiders let them in that game, but like that's your goal to. That's your goal. Like you want to be down 2 scores in the fourth quarter. I mean,
right.
good job, coach. And also
Right.
like you look at, if you took both of those teams and you drafted only Chargers and Raiders, you would take more Chargers than Raiders. Right. So I mean, like, so when are we gonna get? Is this a year if Herbert doesn't come through? People are gonna criticizing Herbert. I hear a lot of stuff about Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson had a year where he had a tremendous offensive season, and the team went 4-12. And the first thing I heard was his defense. I was like, oh no, you don't get to talk about his defense if I can't bring up Derek's defense. So right. so all those things like that. So it's somewhere in the middle. I think this is a great opportunity for I've been hearing from training camp that the ball's not really hitting the ground. I mean, I've had my issues with Derek. I don't want to sound like I'm like he's perfect. I mean, the fumbles bother me. Like, I mean, he can secure the ball on some of those sacks, no question about it. But I mean, like, we are lucky to have that kind of player because he gives us a chance to compete for a title. I mean, like, whether you like him or not, he gives them a chance to compete for a title. I think the Raiders can actually compete for a title this year.
100%. And again, like I mentioned earlier, best offense Derek Carr's ever by a mile, not even close. Best coaching staff, best front office he's had. Everything is setting up perfectly to make it for an incredible season. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So when we look at it like this, we have to really understand that you mentioned just now how you've heard that balls don't drop the floor, right?
Yep.
Imagine how great the secondary or how respectable and solid the secondary can be, knowing you have to go up against a Darren Waller, a Devontae Adams, and a Renfro every day in practice. What does that do for players like Nate Hobbs? What does that do for players like Rocky Sin, Anthony Averett, Amik Robertson, who's fighting for a spot, right? Let's just be blunt. I hope Amik Robertson does something good this year. I've been rooting for the kid, but he has heart. He's a dog, but you got to perform. You got to be consistent. You know what I mean? Look at he shut down Mike Williams last year, right? And what happened the very next game? He got smoked by the Broncos, right? So it's consistency. But all the chips are on the table this year. Super Bowl window opens now, and the way the contracts are being created, it's a 3-year window.
Yeah, so a 3-year window. The 3-year window, no question about it. So, give me 3 players here. 3 players here where you that you're excited to see with the Raiders this year. Perform. I think you mentioned one guy who I'm excited about. I'm hearing that there have been epic battles between Nate Hobbs and Devontae Adams. That only iron sharpens iron. That only can help, and to the point where and Meek has been doing such a good job as far as and we'll see in the upcoming preseason game. He's been doing such a good job in the slot that they're willing to switch out him and Hobbs and putting Hobbs on the outside, which I think is pretty cool.
What I love about this coaching staff too, and it started with Carmen Bracillo, versatility, right? We need to be able to have players that can move on different sides, right? If you're a nickel corner, let's throw you on the outside. Let's see how you work, right? If you're a guard, let's swing you out to tackle. Let's see how you work, because we need to be able to have athletes, not just players that play one position. That's it, right? So you mentioned 3 players to look that I'm excited for.
Yep, 3 players you're looking to excited for before we go.
Oh, overall, damn. Trayvon Merrick, I think he's gonna be a Pro Bowler this year.
Yeah.
Darren Waller, I think Darren Waller is gonna have a monster season this year.
Yeah.
And somebody that might surprise people is Malcolm Koonce.
Yeah.
Malcolm Koonce, in my opinion, is gonna blow up this year. And God forbid, Chandler Jones gets injured or anything. He's getting the reps on that side, right? And he's learning from a Hall of Famer. So I'm excited, brother. I mean, there's no excuses this year. We've praised and given every excuse possible for why this team hasn't succeeded. All the chips are on the table this year. No excuses. And I'm sure you agree with that, bro. Yeah,
no question about it. And I think maybe with Fackrell going down, that could end up being a little bit of a hurt, but maybe a blessing for Koonce to come in and play that role for as that third pass rusher. I know you do a lot of things. Last thing I want to talk about is like a lot of things with my mental health with people, which is like for people, they want, it's a really, it's a hot topic now. And I think it's almost like, I'm not sure how our parents did it without it, like, or how the previous generation do it without having the option for mental health. Can you talk about that and the spaces you created for that?
Right. So, I mean, growing up in the '90s, growing up in a hostile gang environment, I was born in the gang territory. I was born in Watts, so I mean, I grew up very rough to say the least, and I had to grow up to be a man at a very young age. So through those trials and tribulations, I grew up to understand that I serve a purpose in this world to help others with my knowledge and to just be caring and to give an ear. Right. Growing up, we learned that you have to keep everything inside. That's not the way to go. That's such a watered down mentality to have. How many men suffer from drugs? They kill themselves, they commit suicide, or they suffer from being an alcoholic because that's the only way they bottle their emotions, because their whole life they've been taught that they can't express themselves, right? So what I'm starting is a platform in which myself, my boys Zoo Kruger and Juju, we have a platform. It's called the Zoo Crew Network, and we host mental spaces every Friday of the month. So we post it up and we just have kind of like an open space, and then we just invite people to come in and talk to us about how they feel. Kind of like we want to be like a community of understanding, right? And it's not just for men. Anybody, if you're a human being, come on in. Let's talk about it. It's a safe space, and we're here to create a platform for everybody to know that, hey, you're not alone in what you're going through, and we're definitely here for you. We're here to lend an ear, and we're here to give advice, and we're just here to build culture and community. Because at the end of the day, we're all one race, and that's the human race.
That's cool. That's cool. That's cool stuff. And that's one of the reasons why I definitely wanted to have you on so you can talk a little bit about that as well too. So
Appreciate
you can check that out. Sunday against the Vikings here. A good test for the secondary if they do play those receivers, Jefferson. And then I forgot the other receiver they have in Minnesota, but they do have a formidable team. And the Irv Smith is a good tight end as well. So we'll see what happens there. See how much burn they get, and maybe nobody will freak out when Josh Jacobs has 10 carries.
Right.
Yeah.
And so yeah, anybody who's free 11 o'clock in the morning Pacific time, go on to my Twitter. It's Twitter handle Raider Sniper. More than welcome to come in. Let's talk some Raiders football concerns, open talk about silver and black, but it's exclusively a Raiders space. So let's come in and talk that silver and black because there's only one nation. That's Raider Nation, baby.